maybe the best thing is for them to lose, but I don't know. I don't know if Jerry wants to lose. Don't forget, man, this is prime time. You know Jerry wants to win.
Yeah.
So I think if it's a close game and they lose, okay, fine. I think it's easier. If it's a well, no, if it's a blowout, it's easier to say, all right, Dak, it's your turn. But let's say it's just a possession here or there, and Cooper plays decent, then there's the problem. So if they lose, it's got to be a blowout.
Yeah. Right. I see what you're saying. Because yeah, if it's close, then you can't really say that Cooper necessarily busted.
Yeah, let's say the Dallas offense is clicking and it's the defense all of a sudden that just has a bad night. Can't blame Cooper on that if he keeps them in the game, if it's at some 35, 33, some insane score. But if they just get totally mollywopped, it's easier to say, there you go, Dak, it's your time.
Yeah.
So,
other games earlier. Well, let's transition. I mean, that comparison to Brady versus Bledsoe all those years ago is a fair one. So let's touch on. I talked a little bit about it already. Let's talk on the Patriots because they've got a new quarterback now that nobody
the
expected.
Zap man himself. I told you the Zap man could be something special. You looked at me like I had three eyes and everything, man. This kid's, he's playing. He just seems to have a little something. Seems like he's got this offense down. Now, mind you, everyone always used to say when you went to New England, the playbook was the hardest playbook to learn and this and that. Of course, every times have changed, but this team plays well with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he moves a little better in the pocket than Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Mac Jones I think is a statue in the pocket. This kid moves around. I think the guys feed off of his energy, and they're playing well. I don't know if still don't think they're a playoff team, but I think they're going to be a team that's going to, end up causing some problems for some teams that are like looking to get in.
So they were only up 10-6 after the half, and then the doors just came off in the second half. They outscored Cleveland 28-9. Zappa had over 300 yards. He had a couple touchdowns. Stevenson had a couple touchdowns on the ground. So, I mean, nobody really expects nothing from Browns. We don't know what they're going to be when Watson comes back. It's eventually. So, what's the Patriots' outlook right now? Because Buffalo just had a huge win over Kansas City. Miami's kind of falling apart. The Jets continue to defy reality.
Oh, yes, they do.
So, what's the outlook on the Patriots right now?
I think they're just like, you know what? No one expects anything from us. Let's just play. When honestly, no one expected anything from them. They were like, they looked at last year's record, they looked at them this year, and it was, maybe they'll maybe they could eke in. And right now, with Belichick, if he can get those guys to believe they have a chance, that it's us against the world, like I said, they may be around week 13, week 14. But at the same time, what happens when Jones comes back? It's almost like the Dallas situation. Is Bill going to say, nope, we're going with the rookie? Are you going to sit your first round pick and go with the Zap man? Or is this kid sitting here saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to show what I can do, and a team's going to offer New England, a boatload of stuff. They trade him off, and then this kid goes on and does some great things.
Got a question. One of my podcast co-hosts, who also has a YouTube channel, wants to know how I did this week. So I guess that can transition into our next game, which my cousin was texting me all afternoon saying he was going to cancel Sunday ticket because he didn't want to watch this abomination that the Colts have become this year. Down 7-0 after one, down 14-13 at halftime, 21-19 after the third. I know we had a failed 2-point conversion, but for some reason, I don't know why Matt Ryan looks like such a waste of skin for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden the old Matt Ryan comes out in the fourth quarter. lately?
The deal with Matt Ryan is he's not the guy. He's not the guy to carry the team anymore. He's not. Let's be honest. With Matt Ryan, you're going to get a guy like basically Phillip Rivers. He's going to be serviceable. He's not going to make too many mistakes, but you're hoping that the talent around him can carry along with the defense. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case in Indy this year.
Oh.
But for some reason, the last couple games, he's found the magic, and he's been able to to get him some wins. Now, is this going to last all season? There's no way. I don't think he's got it in him. He needs Taylor back. He definitely needs Taylor back, and I don't know if they have the pieces. He needs a big-bodied receiver. I don't know if he's really got that there. So it's going to be a situation where they could be like New England, unfortunately. You don't know, Shaq Leonard's going to come back. He's hurt. That defense is not what I thought it was going to be.
No.
Because believe you me, I took that defense on a lot of my fantasy teams this year. I thought this defense was going to be a top 5. I really like this defense. And unfortunately, when your offense can't put up points, your defense is going to suffer. It's just fact. So if they can hold on, tread water 500, Taylor comes back, but you can't all of a sudden hand him the ball 25 times a game and run him into the ground. You can't do it.
No. And from the flip, and on the flip side of the game, of course, is the Jags, who's been a contender for the division so far this year, and we somehow, defying reality, have also played ourselves back into being a contender for the division. So now the Jags fall back to 2-4. They're now falling out of it a little bit. It's looking like Indy and Tennessee. Now, I don't think, we already got scraped by Tennessee once. But is this did the Jags just kind of peak too early? They had a lot of energy because they got a new coach. They got a lot of young guys, and now that's kind of it.
I think this works in their favor in a way. I think with Peterson, I'm sure he came in and said, hey, we've got talent. It's going to take work. And I would believe he would have tempered expectations over the first 3 games. I figured he would have said, yeah, we won some games. It's still early. Like, let's calm it down. So this is the portion of the program where there's the adversity. Now you need to see how it's going to work out. Now, last season for the Jags was all adversity, just a hot mess. just a total mess. The difference is you now have a head coach who can handle that and lead these guys. So I still think there's positivity in that locker room for sure because they have talent. They really do.
Yeah, you don't have the ultimate flake in Urban Meyer leaving them high to dry in the middle of the season.
Exactly. Now, if this was the old Jags, they would have been out of it by halftime. It wouldn't, so the fact that they're in games through 4 quarters shows where they've grown. So I think, they have to learn. They're going to get the bumps. But I think with this team, they're moving in the right direction.
Let's flip Wayne's question and now talk about your team.
As
most people can guess from all the memorabilia on the wall behind you.
Oh, lordy. Yeah. You mean the Todd Bowles, I pulled out the Jets playbooks and decided we just didn't want to play? Yeah, sure. We can talk about those Bucks. Honestly, they just looked like they didn't care. It really was the worst play calling I've seen in a long time. Like when you watched that game, when they went, no huddle, hurry up, let's throw the ball, they moved the ball. But then, on 3rd and 1, a couple times you're not running. Okay, the run just wasn't working. So split it, spread them out and throw it. That's how Brady works. You've got receivers. You've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You got guys to throw to. But for some reason, they want to run straight up the middle, and, the game was horrible. There was no life. That offensive line is putrid. That offensive line is in some serious hurt. They need Ryan Jensen back because he's an animal. He's a dog there. He's the guy with the attitude. He's the guy that if someone touches Brady, he's going to hurt him. Like, that's just him. That offensive line just seems like they're happy to be there. And they were lucky that, Cincinnati beat the Saints, and now they're in a tie with the Falcons for the lead in the division. Now they have, one game on them because they beat them last week. So,
Right.
but yeah, that team is in very rough shape.
So, I mean, what happened at the end of the game? Because I'm just watching the score on the ticker. I tried to bring up the box score now, and I had ads playing in the background, so I had to kill that. Did they miss a 2-point conversion?
Yeah.
Okay.
They came down, scored the touchdown. They were ready, 2-point conversion. Unfortunately, you kind of knew he was going to go to Godwin on it, and the Steelers played a hell of a game. Mitch Trubisky came in, and you would have thought that man had that offense the whole season. You would have thought he never got benched. But those guys came and played with heart. You can't take anything away from them. Tomlin's a hell of a coach. For whatever that their record ends up being, the guy got them ready to play. I think Tampa walked in there and said, "Yeah, we're the Bucks, and yeah, we're gonna win." It's one of those things, and they got smacked in the mouth. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I really don't. I was on Twitter all day and reading comments, and then of course, you put in your 2 cents and such, and it was all the same thing. Leftwich should not get a head coaching job because he calls a horrible game, and Bowles needs to speak up. When you watch Bowles on the sidelines, he seems like he's just happy, just smiling and like yay, okay, don't do that. He's like that dad that'll give you a timeout, and it's like your kid doesn't need a timeout. If Bruce Arians was on that sidelines, there would have been hell to pay. But at the same time, he would have told Tom, do what you do, throw the ball. So I don't know what that team's going to do, but they need to fix it quick.
Do you think it is Leftwich's shine coming off, or more Bowles' direction that he's telling Leftwich, and he's telling him not to open up the playbook? So that's just what you're going to get if you're only allowed to use a quarter of what you have available to you.
Honestly, it's hard to tell. I don't think Bowles really puts a hand on the offense. I think he sticks with the defense. And even there was some questionable defense today too. Like they converted every third down. Anything that was third and over 10 yards, they converted. Made no sense to me whatsoever. 2-3 weeks ago, this was a top 5, top 3 defense. And then they just looked like middle of the road. We don't care. We pulled some guys off the bus and said, here, let's have some fun. And it was I think everyone thought that it was going to be a partnership between Brady and Leftwich. We're going to run the offense. But I don't know if Tom would call these plays. I really don't. And they need to figure it out quick, because if not, the way the season's going and the way the league is, there's nothing for certain. This team could lose the next 3 or 4 easy.
Great segue into the next game. Wayne has another comment. That's why we Atlanta fans have dealt with since the Super Bowl loss. I think he was referring to the inconsistencies of Matt Ryan. So Atlanta, we saw them play the Bucks last week while I was in town. And like I said, this team they don't have a lot to work with, but damn if they don't play tough.
Exactly. They believe in each other. You can tell that team really believes that they're in it. They have that me against the world mentality, and they took it to the Niners. I think the Niners maybe the same way the Bucks were kind of like, okay, it's the Falcons. They gave the Bucks, trouble, but we're better than the Bucks, so we should be okay. And that wasn't it at all. Mariota looked like he was back in Oregon and just doing his thing.
For real, 3 total touchdowns today.
When you know that nobody believes in you and no one thinks you're going to do anything, there's no pressure. You just go out and play.
Now speaking of the Niners, do you think that my first reaction to this is they just looked past Atlanta? They didn't take Atlanta seriously. They got the Chiefs next week. They're thinking of how they're going to play up Mahomes. Obviously there's a little bit of, what's the word? I don't want to say bad blood, but some kind of aging tenacity between them because of the Super Bowl a few years back. So is this just kind of scrape this aside, or are there probably deeper issues that, similar to what the Bucks are going with, deeper issues that the Niners have? or this is just like a.
I think this was just a hiccup game. I think it was a hiccup game. The Niners have been solid since Jimmy G's taken over. You know, Jimmy G's playing with house money at this point. He's going to be free agent next year, so he's
Yeah.
like, he's playing to look good. Let's be realistic. The offense there, I'm not a fan of it. Like I understand Debo is your wide receiver back and all that kind of stuff. I just think they looked past Atlanta, and Atlanta said, "All right, you don't believe? Okay, well, we're going to show you," and that's what happened. Now, Bosa didn't play today. I don't think that had enough to do it. I think they still could have beat them, but I also think that George Kittle's kind of been lost in the sauce.
George Kittle actually put up some numbers today. Finally.
Yeah, finally. But I think long term he needs to be a priority in the offense. Mind you, he's a phenomenal blocking tight end. There's no doubt about it. But is he going to be a glorified blocking tight end, or this guy who does have skills? Is he going to be part of your offense? You know, they went to other guys today in their offense, which was great. But then you need to do that consistently. It can't be.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk finally showed up for once.
I know. I picked him up because I needed somebody, and I was like, "Thank you." But here's the thing: it's always been Debo and the boys. Now. That's what it's been. So now it's okay. We've got these guys that can play because Ayuk can play. He's solid. He's good. You know. So I think they really need to look at their offense and say, "Okay, we need to become more multidimensional." But I just think overall it was a hiccup. Yeah, they probably look back because Kansas City's there, but they're nowhere in Kansas City's stratosphere at all. At all. There's only one other team that's in that stratosphere, and that's Buffalo.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Kansas City will look at the Niners and say, okay, there's maybe a chance we see you in the Super Bowl, but other than that, we don't care about what you do.
They're like, you're gonna look out and make the Super Bowl because the NFC is trash, and we don't care who comes out of there because if we come out, we're gonna beat whoever. Let's be honest.
Isn't it funny how much changed in a week? Because the AFC has been the trash conference this year. And now after this week, we're saying the NFC is the trash conference.
I always felt the NFC was coming into this year. I felt the NFC was the weaker division. I really thought they were the weaker conference. Just because you didn't know what you were going to get with the Rams. There's always the Super Bowl hangover. They had their questions. Brady came back to the Bucs, but you didn't know. And, Bulls took over. So you're like, okay, what's this going to be? I'm sorry. I did not believe in Green Bay at all. I'm sorry. I didn't. And it's not for my personal disdain for Aaron Rodgers. And after that, it's a hodgepodge of stuff. So, yeah, no one saw Dallas coming on this strong. No one saw Philly coming on this strong. We're in just over the first quarter of the season. So now you're going to really start to see the season progress and see if these teams can keep it up. But I'm sorry. In my opinion, the Super Bowl winner's coming out of the AFC, if you ask me right now.
Ooh. There's one team you missed just now, and that is the surprising Minnesota Vikings. Matching the 5-1 record that the Giants have, that the Cowboys could have, that the Eagles could have / could surpass tonight. And the NFC North looking pretty weak. Packers, very overrated. Bears, pretty awful. Lions, very, very disappointing. Are the Vikings for real? Now they go down to Miami, and maybe this was just low-hanging fruit because Miami can't keep a quarterback healthy to save their life.
No, like that's tough. And yeah, you're getting Tua back next week supposedly, but is he one hit away from going out again?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be realistic here. Tua is fragile, and teams are going to say, "Get to the quarterback." That's what it is. So, I thought the Vikings could have played a little better, but a win's a win. You take it. The Vikings have always had talent, but it was always for some reason, they just couldn't put it all together. Now, right now, they should hold that division. I think they're going to win that division. They really should because Green Bay is awful. Green Bay is just putrid. Let's be honest here. So the Lions are total rebuild mode. We all know that. They're that feel-good story. Dan Campbell, the coach, those guys love them. They will run through a wall for them. And you hope that it gets that franchise going, because that franchise is one of the oldest in the league. So, you know, you always, if you can get Detroit looking good, then I think it's good for the league altogether. But no, the Vikings, if healthy, should win that division. You know, Kirk Cousins, literally, if he can't get anything done this year, then he'll just be middle of the road Kirk forever. Franchise Kirk, you know, made my money, and, you know, that's all it is. They've got the talent. They just have to stay healthy.
Next team, one that you are, I'm sure, very happy to see in the cellar right now.
Which one could this be?
The thorn in your side of the last few years. Now, they were actually doing pretty well today against Cincinnati for a while. They were up 20-14 at the half, 23-21 after 3. I was worried. I'm like cursing at my phone saying, Bengals, get your shit together and cover this spread. What is wrong with you? It's only 2 points. How are you not covering a 2-point line against the freaking Saints? So, but I don't know. Do we just want to like ignore the Saints here because they're kind of a mess? Or do we want to focus on the Bengals? Because the Bengals had a lot of promise coming off a Super Bowl run. Burrow looks fantastic despite the fact he gets beat up like a rag doll every week. Chase is a freaking stud. And they've looked very average this year. Now, granted, they're tied for first because Pittsburgh's been pretty bad. Cleveland's a mess. And Baltimore's just about as shaky as Cincinnati is.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the deal. When it comes to the Saints, I think everybody still has thoughts of Sean Payton in their head since, you know, Dennis Allen is a disciple and, you know, he was there. So everyone thought the transition was going to be smooth and he was going to continue on. It's not the case. Now, mind you, Jameis has physical talents. It's just, he just doesn't use them. He's just not. Yeah, exactly. It took him how many years to get his eyes done and all of that. They have pieces there. Like, they have talent on that team. There's no doubt about it. It's just, I don't think Jameis is the guy to orchestrate that offense. I just don't. Now, that defense at the beginning of the year was their strong suit, because last year that defense was dominant. They had a good defense. Now you're looking at it, you know, people, you know, they're nicked up. They had a lot of guys out today. It's a long season, you know, 3-4 weeks. They could be back and, you know, chugging along. I don't believe in Jameis. You know, this is why, like, this loss to the Steelers hurts, because it's like that's just one more game up. You know, the Bucks could have been up and such. So you don't know. They could go on a little run towards the end. They could be one of those teams that causes some problems for somebody. But as of right now, they're 2-4. I don't know. I don't know about that team. I think the Saints are Cincinnati has all talent in the world. That their offensive line is the problem. If they can't Joey B up, once he's ready to leave, he's going to leave.
And they retooled that whole thing to absolve what happened in the Super Bowl.
They paid a lot of money for that offensive line. They picked up Alex Kappa, who was a free agent from Tampa. There were a couple other guys that they put in there. That offensive line is pretty much totally different from last year, and there's still problems. I think they really need to look at their backs. You know, Mixon is great, but you need a back that can help you out. Mixon can't block anything. You know, I don't know if they've got to change the offense a bit, bring in a fullback, maybe keep, you know, a tight end back there, but they're only going to go as far as Burrow is standing up. So if they can't keep him standing up, they're just going to fall apart.
Next game, the ultimate Bucks McGee burn this stadium to the ground matchup. The New York Jets going into Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers.
This was the highlight of my day. I will tell you, this was the highlight of my day. To see Aaron Rodgers get mollywopped by the Jets was great. Green Bay is a putrid team. I don't care. The greatest Aaron Rodgers fan in the world cannot come into my house here and tell me that, oh, they're great, they're going to be good again, this and that. Their defense was supposed to be great. Their defense is adequate at this point. Now, mind you, the Jets have a lot of young talent, but those guys they're young. They don't have the stigma of what the Jets were. They're a whole new team. So they don't, Mark Sanchez butt fumble, all that other stuff. That's not them.
No JETS just end the season.
No, exactly. Like these guys are now going into stadiums and thinking they can win. And they have talent. They do have talent. Now, they're still probably a couple of years from really hitting that elite AFC level, but they're good. They're solid. And Green Bay is in a world of hurt. Alan Lazar is not a number one. I don't care what anybody says. Alan Lazar, no, he's Randall Cobb. Fine, you brought him back because he knew the system. All right, but is he performing? No. Then you got a bunch of rookies who probably, let's be honest, the way Aaron talks and code and everything during his press conferences are like, this guy doesn't like me.
Yeah.
They're probably hoping this is his last year and he moves on and Jordan Love and all those guys can start hanging out together, playing Xbox, having a great time, and end up turning it around. That's probably what they're all hoping for. Because honestly, I think Aaron is going through the motions. I don't think he believes in those guys. And you're going to see what happens, but they're not winning that division.
That has a toxic effect too towards the future, because if you're a receiver with another team that maybe doesn't have a solid quarterback situation going on, why would you want him coming in to alleviate what ails you? Like you would think someone on, let's say, Miami with all of Tua's issues, you would think Tyreek Hill would love to have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. But if Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be so great, he should be able to do what his predecessor, Brett Favre, was able to do and throw to the mailman and the paper delivery boy and get him 6 touchdowns a year, at least 6 touchdowns a year. If you're, you would think I would love this guy to play here, but he can't. He doesn't have this elevating presence on these other receivers, on these lesser known receivers.
No, because those guys on those Brett Favre teams would probably go out with Brett after games, drink beers, and just shoot the shit and have a grand time.
Cheers to that.
That's what they would probably do, because Brett was that guy. He was one of the guys. He had that feel. When you watch those games, you could tell that they genuinely loved playing with each other. You watch Green Bay games, it's like, okay, we have to play with this guy because he's the quarterback. He's the guy. It's Aaron Rodgers. Okay, fine, whatever. And then, like Randall Cobb, I'm sure would sit there and say, you just have to get to know him, blah, blah, blah. No, those guys are tired of his mess. Why do you think Adams left? Let's be real. Devontae, if he really wanted to be there, he would have stayed. He probably would have signed a little smaller contract or just something to say, okay, I'll stay here for a year or two, but I want to rework my deal. Let's figure this out. He jumped when he could. Like, let's be real. It was just lucky that he was able to go to the Raiders and play with his former college quarterback. Like, let's be honest.
And that was such a funny situation because Devontae was so like pro Aaron, bring Aaron back. Let's run it back.
Right.
And then as soon as Aaron's back, less than a week later, Devontae's gone out the door.
It was just a matter of time. Like, you knew it. Like, there was just that whole situation was just really awkward. And you just had that feeling that something wasn't right. So when the trade went down, I sat there and I was like, okay, this explains a lot. I could see why he did this. Mind you, Aaron Rodgers, talent-wise, unbelievable. I'll put him just below Mahomes and Allen. Because the guy, he can whip it all over the place. Can't move that. He can't move as well as those guys do, but he can move. But if you're telling me if I want someone to lead my team, no way. No way in the heck is that man leading my team. No. Mm-hmm. And everyone, Aaron Rodgers, the greatest of all time. At the end of the day, everyone has their metric of how they measure greatness, whether it's wins, Super Bowls, or whatever. If you want someone who's just whipping it around and, touchdown to interception ratio, and, that's great, then Aaron Rodgers is your guy. But you really need to start to step back and say, well, what has he won for that franchise over the last 7-8 years? A lot of first round see you laters.
Yeah.
But you still want to keep this guy on the pedestal, then that's your choice. Then you'll start hanging banners that said playoff participant, because that's basically what you are. That's how I see it. Sorry, that's how I see it.
Now, nice little segue to the next game. Before I rip Carolina a new one. Actually, I won't, because they got rid of that poison pill head coach they had. But Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, are they basically the same quarterback right now? As far as legacy, not this season. As far as legacy,
legacy. Yeah. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Some people might look at Matt Stafford as a hired gun, as the piece that was able to put the Rams over the top. Now, mind you, Aaron was there from the beginning, drafted by Green Bay, sat behind Favre, then led them. Matt was kind of like, okay, I want to go somewhere where I can win now, because I'm reaching that point in my career where I need to win. He started to become the Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. Okay, I don't have much time left. I need to win. So,
well, I think when you get your gold jacket, I don't think that so much matters as much, because then it's almost like the Kevin Durant effect. Like, as long as you won and you were a significant contributor to winning, who gives a shit if you left the team that you grew up with?
No, that's fine, but then but see, the problem is who's in the room and who's at that point, because it's still old school who has their thoughts to the new school. It's like nowadays with baseball, you still have the old writers that won't vote in Barry Bonds and such because of steroids. But you've got the young guys who are like, you know what? No, they need to be in there. They, it wasn't enough to affect them. They still hit the home runs. They still, pitched great. They should be in the hall. So I think you still have that kind of that line divide. I think if you're looking at their careers, yeah, they're the same. I would say they are the same. Now, mind you, Aaron doesn't throw as many interceptions. That's like the claim to fame. Everyone wants to hang their hat on that. That's fine. But if you were to put their resume side by side and don't put names on them, I think you're going to sit there and say, all right, these guys are pretty much equal.
So speaking of the Rams, they had a nice fat 11-point line today, fluctuating between 11, 11.5, 10.5. They're supposed to scrape the Panthers, and rightfully so. The Panthers have been absolutely abysmal this year. They just fired their head coach. They can't keep a quarterback healthy. CMC is a shell of his former self. They go into this game, and they actually didn't play all that bad. The Panthers were up 10 to 7.5. The Rams only just scored the game. That box score is not right. 10. Oh, yes, it is. I'm sorry. They only just tied the game about halfway through the third quarter. It's very much a backdoor cover. Wound up getting two go-ahead touchdowns in the second half to run away with it. But the Rams didn't look all that good today. And if you can't run away from the Panthers out of the gate, there's a problem. Because that team never looks consistent on any phase of defense from a game-to-game standpoint. One game you'll have shredded cheese secondary, but you can't run the ball against them. And then the next game, you could drive a Mack truck through their line, but they're looking like Honey Badger and Troy Polamalu out there.
When it comes to the Rams, I honestly believe they kind of walked in believing their press clippings because of the personalities on that team. Like, let's be real. There's a lot of personality on that team. Aaron Donald, Ramsey, like those guys believe themselves. And rightfully so.
Right.
But like, they actually had an Allen Robinson sighting today. He scored a touchdown. It's like, oh, hello. Hey, here I am. I missed the team bus for the last 4 weeks, and here I am, or whatever, 4 or 5 weeks. But they've got a problem. I'm reading that there's rumors that Cam Akers could be traded. Didn't play. They've got some in-house issues. This was the guy that you guys were hanging your hat on to be your star running back. You guys had him, Sonny Michel, Henderson. Like, I don't know who's running the ball there from week to week.
Sonny Michel.
Yeah. Yeah. Another New England quality first round pick. New England should just sell their first round picks and just stay within the third and down. That's where he's made. It's Cooper, Kupp, and whoever else. That's what that offense is. Stafford's always looking for his bailout, and it's Cooper, Kupp. There's going to be a point where teams know. It's just whether they have the personnel to stop it.
Right.
I think they're going to start becoming one-dimensional offensively because they can't run the ball. Just can't run the ball. The defense is still solid, but it's not the defense of last year. Not at all. So they could make the playoff. If they make the playoffs, they could be a one and done. I don't think anybody fears the Rams like they feared last year. Because last year, like the Rams, you were like, oh, okay. Now you're like, yeah, all right.
And there's tape on them now.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year they were a little bit of an unknown, especially with Stafford.
And they're hoping that Odell comes back. If I was him, I wouldn't go back there because I think you might win one game in the playoffs if you make the playoffs. Like, let's be realistic. If he's going to go somewhere, it very well could be like Buffalo or something like that. But no, the Rams are. The Rams, they're like the Bucks. They have talent, but it's just a hodgepodge if we don't know what we want to do. We think the name is enough to get us wins, and that's not it. So I think if they really start to suffer this year, I think the shine on McVay starts to come off, and then next year no one will say it. Could be you got to prove it, a prove it year for him.
Right. And one last point on the Panthers. CMC's been such a question mark as far as what McCaffrey comes out on a week-to-week basis. He actually showed the pulse today. First quarter, he was run up the middle to the outside. He was catching out of the backfield. He was making plays. He was looking like Christian McCaffrey of old. So I don't know whether maybe he was just dogging it under Rule because Rule was such a disaster.
Well, you would have to. That whole team was dogging it at that point. And you would hope as professionals they weren't doing that. I just think they were tired. Like they always say, when it's time for a change for head coach, it's usually because their voice falls on deaf ears and they're just like, whatever. I think they needed a new voice, and rightfully so. It was time to get rid of him. I think McCaffrey was also just frustrated. The guy's been hurt the last 2-3 years, and maybe he trusts his body now. But at the same time, who knows who your quarterback is? This week it's PJ Walker, XFL MVP. The guy played all right last year. I'm not going to knock the guy. Hey, man, you're in the league. I'll give it to you, Hey, man, Ben DiNucci's looking for a job. Shout out to Ben DiNucci. You guys don't look him up. Ben DiNucci. James Madison alum.
James Madison's finest.
That's right. James Madison, shout out. But, so, and now you're hearing they may trade him, they may not. It's got to be an offer that blows him out of the water. They're fine keeping him. He's attractive this year because I read his salary for this year is like $1.3 million, so any team can fit him. But then his salary balloons to like 11 or 12 million next year. So a team can work it for next year, no doubt. But they're gonna have to give up the picks. But is a team going to give up the farm with picks if they don't trust his body? Like, that's the problem. Like, they're going to need to see 2 or 3 weeks of him, 15, 20 carries, taking hits. And then who else is on the table out there? Are they going to get rid of Robbie Anderson? Robbie Anderson's a solid wide receiver. He could help a team. Now, some people were saying maybe Green Bay. You'd need 2 or 3 Robbie Andersons to get Green Bay right. Like, let's be realistic. So those, which pieces are available? Are they just going to strip it down? Maybe keep the defense of the guys there because they have their defense is good. They've got a lot of young pieces on that defense.
And you know what? If you read the tea leaves in the second half of today's game, Robbie Anderson could be sooner sooner to move out than CMC because, like you're saying, there's a lot of question marks with McCaffrey's health and whatnot. But Robbie Anderson, he had a little bit of a tiff with Steve Wilkes at the end of this game and wound up getting tossed, not by the officials, but by his own coach. So Robbie Anderson might be more likely to be out the door first than McCaffrey.
Oh yeah, I think he's definitely going. Now he didn't have a problem when they brought in Baker, but don't forget Robbie Anderson came from the Jets and he played with Darnold. They were friends. They're friends. So when all this happened, he made some comments that were misconstrued, and of course he corrected himself, but he was honest. He was like, no disrespect to Baker, but I think Sam can do the job. So I think for sure you'll see Robbie Anderson somewhere. I think a team is going to pay a little more for him than they should, but he'll probably go to a contender. The question is do they want to see him in the NFC, or they're just going to say, okay, AFC, here you go. Lamar needs a wide receiver. So you never know. I could see him going to the AFC.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Carolina now is sitting there saying, okay, who can we get rid of? Who do we want to get rid of? What do we want this team to be? Plus, that's also hard because you don't know who your coach is going to be. I think they're going to end up going outside, finding somebody new. But I think they're going to keep the defensive pieces because those pieces are really good unless you're blown away with first.
My man Craft Bruiser, what is going on, sir? Thank you for joining the live. We'll get to your team in a minute. Your team doesn't play till tomorrow night. But there's 2 more games left on the slate that is just completed. One, of course, will draw us back to this Rams game and the Niners game from earlier as far as who's the favorite in the NFC West.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thought it was going to be the Cardinals coming into the year. Kyler's young. Kyler's got a lot of talent to throw to, despite Hopkins' early season suspension. A lot of targets to throw for. They have looked absolutely abysmal. They've looked no better than the Carolina Panthers. They just look abysmal. And who's on the other side of the match of the day? The Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks.
Go ahead, Geno. Go ahead. He said, all right, Russ, you don't want these pieces? I'll make them work. And lo and behold, he has. Arizona can't run the ball. They have talent. It's one of those things where there's talent, but it's just not cohesive talent. And there was a lot made of Kyler and the contract and all that earlier, preseason and all that. I don't know. I think maybe when Hopkins comes back, it'll give a little bit stability, but they've got to be able to run the ball. And right now, Kyler runs around like a poor man's Patrick Mahomes. Like, the guy's got talent. I'm not saying he doesn't, but he doesn't have the pieces to where he can run around and just dump the ball off like Mahomes does. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. So he needs a running back because Connor is the guy's just falling apart.
No, yeah,
unhealthy. That defense has pieces that are decent. Isaiah Simmons, secondary's decent, but they've just got to figure out that offense. But that's that. But Geno, give the guy credit. He's playing his tail off.
Do you think the Niners have a lock on this, or do you think Seattle could get into it, considering that the Rams have been up and down and Arizona's been a disappointment? Do you think Seattle could challenge the Niners for it and take us back to a time of yesteryear, like going back to the early Russ days, the Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick years with the Niners? Like, do you think Seattle could make a run at San Francisco once again?
I don't think so, and it's because I don't trust that defense.
Oh God, they're abysmal.
That defense is rough. They'll put up 24 points and give up 30-something, 32, 33. That defense needs to really fix itself. I believe they're one of the we can cause you problems teams. Something could just fall apart and they could back their way in. Wouldn't be the first time it's ever happened, but I know. I think if you ask me today, I think the Niners are the most complete team in that division. Today they just hiccuped. But no, I don't think that I don't think Seattle has enough to take that division. Might be able to wiggle it, maybe able to scrape out a wild card, maybe. But no. I think it's the Niners division unless the Rams get it all together. If the Rams can get on a run,
Right.
I think Rams could take it, but I'm going with the Niners right now.
One last game in the slate that has just completed. And that, of course, was the creme de la creme of the Sunday games outside of tonight's game, of course. That was the likely AFC Championship matchup between Buffalo and Kansas City. This one was really back and forth, scoreless first, tied at 10 at half. Late last minute 60-yard field goal to tie it at the half. Exchange touchdowns in the third. Buffalo pulls away. Kansas City, they get a little bit of a gift penalty at the end, but Mahomes comes back and throws a pick. So what was this? Being that this was a fairly evenly matched game, let's take a different approach on it. Was this an accurate representation of what we're going to see at the end of the year? Or what we maybe should see, not as like gonna see, what we should see?
I would say so. As of right now, yes. They're the two most complete teams in the AFC.
Also the two that are playing well that aren't fool's gold.
Exactly, which is basically all of the AFC West.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, when everything was going on in the offseason, everyone said that the AFC West was going to be that division. And now it's like, yeah, I don't know. But, oh, yeah, no doubt. I watched that game. That game was incredible. Josh Allen's a freak. I'm telling you, man, I like the guy. The way that, especially in that fourth quarter, the way he just was running for first downs. They're going to have to tell him to rein it in, though, a little bit, because he's going to be that one hit away where Matt Barkley's going to be running that team in like January, and that's not a good sign.
Nobody wants to see that.
No, but that defense, their defense is the best in the NFL. Getting Von Miller was the piece they needed. Like Tony Romo said on the broadcast, he said he's going to call him. He calls him the closer, because he has that ability when it's needed, and he showed it. Kansas City, mind you, they've got all new pieces. Tyreek's gone and everything. I think they're a better team offensively than they were last year. But that defense isn't. It's going to get by for what they need, but I think as Buffalo's the team to beat, and they proved it today.
Now, as far as tonight's game goes, it's underway. They're about halfway through the first. No score yet. We already talked a little bit about the outlook of this game and who's in a better position. Or I should say, well, the Phillies kind of been playing with house money in this game, but whether Dallas is in a better position to win and lock up the three-way tie, or lose and not deal with any controversy as Dak comes back from injury. So we already kind of talked about that. So let's just talk about a prediction for this game. Well, how do you think it's going to go? Is it going to be blowout Philly because they're legit and Dallas is kind of lightning in a bottle? Or do you think Philly's got a little bit of luster that can get shined off, and Dallas is not necessarily playing above their head, but they're really that good, and this is a pretty even matchup?
I think it's gonna be a close game. Honestly, I have Philly winning it by like a field goal. That Dallas defense is good. The only knock on it is the secondary. They'll get their picks, but they'll give up the 40, 50-yard bomb too. They'll give up, the deep ball as well. So I think defensively, Dallas is incredible. Especially Micah Parsons. That kid he's a beast. That line is no joke. But if you're talking overall complete, I think Philly is more complete. So yeah, I'm giving Philly a 3 to win it. I just don't trust Dallas's offense. Even with Dak, I don't trust it. Right. I don't know. There's just something about Dak. It just seems like he just can't hit that throw when it's needed. Hopefully Michael Gallup He's back. He stays healthy. Noah Brown's a nice piece. Him and Rush have a nice rapport. I think they need to start Tony Pollard. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Zeke, Zeke, Zeke. If I was them, if someone wants to give me something for him, I would trade him. I think Pollard gives them a more explosive offense, or use them both as equal. Thunder, lightning, whatever you want to call them. This, that, the other thing. But no, I'm taking Philly tonight, and I don't know. Dallas is it's a question mark.
I mean, that Thunder Lightning could work because considering Zeke is just kind of resting on his laurels, he's not chirping, he's not being a distraction. So I mean, if he's willing to accept that role, it could work because he's not being a cancer in the locker room.
No, he's definitely better than he has been. The only question is Dak can Dak deliver the ball when he needs to? He's not to me. He's not consistent, and he's not consistent when he does. It's one of those things where when the blowout happens, oh, Dak was great, but would you trust him with 2 minutes to go, down by 4? Is he going to drive your team down and score? I don't think so. I don't have that trust in him. Now maybe he comes back from the injury, turns it around. But if it's another really up and down season with them, then you really got to start to question, was the money well spent?
Right.
Did Jerry make the right move?
And looking ahead to tomorrow night's game, AFC West matchup, Kraft Bruisers, of course, a big Broncos fan. Must win for us tomorrow night under the lights. Do you think that's a must win for them just to save face, or a must win from a bigger perspective, like we're still in this, we just needed to stay in the mix?
Wow.
Because the Chargers have been a little wacky this year, but generally still good.
They've been extremely slow starters, extremely slow. I think, wow. I don't think the Chargers need it as much as the Broncos. The Broncos are slowly about to hit DEFCON 5. You gave Russ all this money. He said he left Seattle because he didn't have the pieces he needed, and this team had them. Well, he's got weapons. He's looked really bad. So they need this. And if they don't, it's just going to be a mess. It's not going to be pretty. But I think the Chargers need it too, because everyone loves Herb be there, and kid's talented, but there's a point where they're going to get to the playoffs, and it's, well, what are you doing for me lately? You've gotten to the point now where you need to produce. So they need to get on a run because, at this point, I still think it's the Chiefs division. But if they want a playoff spot, which they could because they've got weapons, and that defense, that defense is nice. The pieces they picked up, J.C. Jackson from the Patriots, they got Bosa, Mack, like that. They're stacked. There's no reason for them that they can't put up 11 wins, 10, 11 wins. So
Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride. Well, he wants to ride. He better do something because right now he looks lost. He looks like he's never played the game. Like it's really rough. And they have, they've got talent on that team. The run game's a little banged up and such, but that defense is solid. Like they should be able to compete tomorrow. If it's another blowout, then I don't know. I think at that point, Denver's going to start asking, was the $240+ million worth it?
Do you think the problems with their offense or with Russ sinking in the offense are on Russ? Or do you think they're on the play calling and Hackett maybe taking a page out of Pete Carroll's book last year and being more conservative and not letting Russ cook?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there are days when there have been games where the play calling has been horrible, and you're like, what are you calling? Like, let Russ do what he does. And then there have been games where it's like Russ just can't do what he does for some reason. It just looks like they're just not on the same page. They just look off. Like it was all pretty and roses during the preseason and such, on NFL Network. They were there, in Denver, and everybody was happy. And Russ is, just chucking the ball and everyone's catching stuff. It's all pretty looking. Now it's like, what do we have here? What are you doing? I just don't know. Maybe they've got to scale it down, just go basic. I don't know. It just seems like either one game Russ just isn't on the same page, or the play calls are horrible. There's no reason why they can't be at least at the top of that division or close to it. They have the pieces. I just don't know what it is.
Little quick opinion from the Broncos fan himself: fumbles, drop passes, and play calling are killing us.
Yeah, that'll kill anything without a doubt. So I think Russ kind of has to take a step back from I need my persona to look good, because it's almost like he's worried about what the outside world thinks of him and, the perception, and just, say, hey, we need to win, us against the world. Let's just get it done. Because, yeah, you're right. The defense can't do everything, and that defense is good. And it's going to, as with anything, when your offense can't do it, your defense is going to fall apart. It's
tired.
Yep, exactly. How many 3-and-outs till, the defense is starting to give up plays, and then it's, everyone's like, well, your defense is horrible. No, it's not. It's these guys are tired because these guys are going 3-and-out.
Now I want to get this comment in real quick before we wrap up. Calling back to a previous topic. Von Miller, my boy. I can't believe Denver let him go. Wish him the best and another ring for Von this year. Calling it just like I called it last year. Von gets a ring with the Rams. So is that it? Is Von just the magic ticket right now?
Von is the hired gun. Von's the guy. And you know what? You can't hate Von Miller, because he's a likable guy. He's a likable guy. Like, watching his interviews and stuff, he's just low key, just doing his own thing, loves to play the game. At this point, like I said, he was the piece I think that Buffalo needed. People are saying that, OBJ could go there and stuff like that. I don't think they need him. I think Von Miller was the piece for that defense. They're young. They've got weapons everywhere. That they are a complete team. And honestly, I think Buffalo could win the Super Bowl. If you asked me today, I would pick Buffalo.
Excellent segue to wrap up this edition of Sunday Scaries. After 6 weeks now, is it pretty solidly Buffalo against the world for the title this year?
After they played today, yeah, because everyone, basically said the NFC is a mess. It's a garbage pit. It is. It's whoever happens to tumble out of the NFC is going to get hurt. They're going to smack. Everyone also said that the AFC was going to be a war zone, and whoever limps out of the AFC, may survive the Super Bowl. But right now, it's Buffalo and everybody else. Chiefs second, no doubt. Chiefs are second. But what they showed today, Buffalo's the real deal.
Kansas City, is there anything that can kind of take a little bit off of Buffalo before they get to the Super Bowl? Are they just going to fly right through?
Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm the way I think the AFC Championship game is good. What we basically the preview of what we saw today, and I think it's going to be just as tough as this game was today. But I also think Patrick Mahomes needs to calm down with the fanciness. He had a kid. The pick in the end zone early in the game. It was a play that was similar to the Bucs, when they played the Bucs. They need to make sure that they're getting the ball everywhere else, because everyone knows Travis Kelce runs that offense. If a team is going to hold them under 26, 27 points, that team can beat them. There's no doubt about it. And Buffalo can do that. Buffalo showed that they're complete. Their defense is great. Their offense, they've got guys all over the place. I think they're slowly starting to get the run game going. That was my big concern with Buffalo, the run game. So right now it's Buffalo and everybody else. Now, 2 weeks from now, who knows? The Jets might smack them up or something, and then I'm wait a minute, you know. But right now, after today, Buffalo to me is the team to beat.
Who's coming out of the NFC? Are you still gonna stay Homer, or
Oh,
is the Bucks
Lord,
kind of
man.
got some shine knocked off them?
Right now, I'm taking the Eagles. Honestly, I think the Eagles are playing well. I think you have to give them a consideration. I'm not 100% sold on the Cowboys yet. It's the offense. I don't know what it's going to be in another couple weeks. The NFC West is a jumbled mess. You got two teams that could win that division. The Bucks. No, the way the Bucks played today, I'd be surprised if they made the playoffs. It's just they have the talent. They just, I don't know. It just seemed like they just didn't care. I don't know. It was bad play calling and everything. So if you're asking me today, I'd say Buffalo and Philly.
Chalk. All chalk.
Yeah. Whatever.
I think the only other team really that should be in this conversation right now is the Niners, despite this ugly loss today.
Yeah, I definitely could see the Niners. I just that the offense just bothers me. I need to see something a little more consistent. I need to see some more, ball distribution to some other guys a little more consistent. If they can do that, then they're right there. But I think they're a little predictable in what they do, and I think that's what's going to hurt them. I think the way Jalen has started playing, as Hurts has started playing out there, he can move around. He can do it with his legs, with his arms. So he's a weapon out there for Philly right now.
Absolutely. Sir, go enjoy this Cowboys game. I'm going to go do the same. Enjoy.
Yeah. Get through to the end of the night. Yeah. It was a rough week, but you don't win them all. We're not the 72 Dolphins. No one's supposed to be that. So no, it'll be good to see this and kind of figure out if Dak plays next week, what this team's going to be. I'm hoping Coop has a great game and makes it difficult to make that decision.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I mean, I said off the top of the show, the D in Dallas stands for drama. So they welcome that mess, but I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good for a cohesive locker room. And
no, it's not. Especially if certain guys are getting the ball with one guy and certain guys are getting the ball with the other guy. That's where the problem lies. So we're gonna find out.
Yeah. Well, the Bucks got some pieces to pick up. Lord knows we got some pieces to pick up, but I'll enjoy another undeserved victory Monday, even though last week's victory Monday was a Friday.
Winter win. You take them when you get them.
That's right. We'll limp in and get smoked in the first round by the Chargers. I don't know.
No, Matt Ryan will get you to the second round easy. Come on now. Matty Ice. It's a little bit left in the tank.
I'll go blind and pretend I believe that. Pretend I have faith.
There you go.
Sir. Thank you for joining me again for Sunday Scaries. To the rest of you fine folks for joining and commenting, thank you so much. Cheers. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.